make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door. It's the Richard Wilmore Show.
Thanks for meeting me in the tiniest closet to ever closet in the entire world.
Quite welcome.
We somehow made it in here.
You and I are in the closet.
Damn it! Again. You have you are not new to the music scene.
I'm not.
You have been doing this for how long?
Well, let's see. I've been, I grew up in Memphis, so I started in Memphis, Tennessee. Even though I was born in Texas, I just kind of moved to Memphis for a little bit. Probably, I've been singing in bands since I was about 19 or 20. Mm-hmm. And I've been probably going for about 18 years.
So how does young Matt open up for Blind Melon?
I'll tell you how I did it. I think it's a great story because I just started singing, and my friends in college, they had this band, and I wanted so desperately to be in this band. So I said, I know what I could do. I'm going to go down and talk to the owner of the theater where Blind Melon was playing, and I'm going to tell him that we're the hottest band in town, and I promised him all these people would be at the show, and please give us a shot. I can't believe you haven't heard of us. And I hadn't even practiced with these guys yet. So I go to the guys and I go, guess what? I have a gig for us. Yeah, what, Matt? What? Oh, we're opening up for Blind Melon. And I was the singer of the band, and the rest is kind of...
Wow.
So we got there, and I told the guy who ran us, we're an all original band. That we're like the hottest band. And I think we had like 3 songs. We did 3 covers, but obscure covers. I don't think anybody would know. So I passed them off as my own, like 3 Strange Days by School of Fish, and I forget what else, but I had the gift of gab back then, and I made it happen.
Wow, I'm gonna start doing that.
No.
Like, you don't know who I am?
Oh, it's
Are you
crazy.
a talk show host? You don't know that? And then I'll just make my way into
Exactly.
like premieres and stuff.
Sometimes you have to kind of toot your own horn. So I did it, but get this. So I remember going backstage. I was backstage at the show. I've never sang. I've done anything in my life. The place is sold out, and I'm back there. And then Shannon Hoon walks in from Blind Melon, and it was just one of those moments where I go like, "What am I doing here?" I'm like a huge fan, and that was it. And then I remember I did the show with my eyes closed, but rocking out, and everybody was crowd surfing. It was a blast.
Wow, how awesome! What a story.
Cool.
So you've lived here. You've lived in California.
Right.
How come here now?
I have all my family's from San Antonio. Like my aunts and uncles and my grandparents and all that. Growing up, we'd always make the trip every holiday to San Antonio over the summertime. Lived by the North Star Mall, and I have a lot of memories here. So it was good eventually to move here. Plus, it's not that far from Austin, and I'd rather be in San Antonio than Austin. I get the best of both worlds here. I love San Antonio because there's so much untapped territory, and it's pockets of different scenes and art and culture that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a really. I've only been here since September, and I love it here.
Oh, it's great.
It's so awesome.
Like the Pearl and all this new stuff coming up, places like this. Like I never knew this was really here. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be.
You never knew this closet existed, and here we
are.
Never
did. Here with
You're
Freedom.
playing here tonight in an hour.
Yeah.
Where were you? Do you remember the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio?
I do. I was in Memphis. It was probably during that, probably a year later, after that big show. I heard it on the radio. But then I remember being in Austin and playing me on the radio when I moved there and I had a record out. It's exciting. Now that's exciting. I don't care how old you are or how many records you've sold. I guarantee you, when you come on the radio, you don't turn it off. It's just one of those things where it's like a moment. You know, people, you may say it's a big deal, but it is. It is a big deal, you know, to do that.
It has to be a big deal.
Yeah, it's
I would
nice.
have all the windows down. I would be singing to myself.
It's nice.
You have a collaboration with Gene Simmons.
Right.
What's that like?
Well, let me tell you something. It's funny how that story happened, because this happened
A long
10
time
years
ago, right?
like
Yeah.
11 years ago. I had put out a record, and I wrote him an email and said, I don't sound anything like you, but I may not be doing this if it wasn't for you. I hope you like it. And I sent it to him. I sent him 2 copies. And he called me at my house, like a week later to the day, and told me that he's going to be coming down and recording with me. He wanted to put the song on his record. So he came down, and 3 days and 3 nights with him. And I loved him when I was a kid, you know. I was a Kiss fan and always painted my face and wore the boots.
Does it even seem real yet, or is it finally, I mean, I suppose after 10, 11 years it's sinking in a little, but like, holy crap.
The great thing about it, okay, so those 3 days were great. He never put the song out. And I was under contract to where I couldn't put it out either. I had a record out that I had to shelve, and I had a song in the Lionsgate movie, you know, from that record, and I was bitter about it, kind of, you know, but I didn't let it really show. I never asked him about it, so we kept in touch over the years. I would call him or email him here and there and ask him advice, and he'd give me advice about what to do, and you know, like, as far as having, I go, Gene, what about a PR person? You know, with all this money for PR. He's like, do it yourself. I did it myself. No one loves you and knows you better than you. And you don't want to put, you know, give somebody some money to control, you know, your image and everything. Change your name, come up with something else, and do it yourself. And I did. And it worked, you know. He was right. So.
That, oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, well, we just gotta remain friends. So I was like, it's like a big deal. I never wanted to push anything. Like, why didn't you do that song? So I remember I was hosting a show on Fox here, on the morning show, and I asked him to do an interview, and he did. And it's been nice. And then I went through a bunch of kind of tragedy stuff that's happened, and I was at the bottom of the barrel, and I said, can I please put out the song? He goes, absolutely. You have my blessing. I'm putting it out too. And I just did some press with him in Dallas. So.
He'll be here in the other corner of this closet in 20 minutes. You have are you working on your album right now, or is that coming out?
I have it on iTunes.
Okay.
You can get it on iTunes right now. Pride is a single. It's been out since August. It landed number 17 on the Spotify charts, you know, and it did really well. But I don't really push it. I don't have a record to go buy physically. It's coming out, but I have Volume 1 and Volume 2 that are out now on iTunes, Amazon, and then we're going to do like a big album release here pretty soon.
So that's what's going on in 2018 for you?
Yeah.
Anything else? So you're touring like a crazy person?
I am, and I'm doing it all myself, so it's really weird. It's like, a lot of people do that for them and set it up, but I do it. I do like this gig, or one in El Paso or Los Angeles. I usually play in Austin, here, Los Angeles, and Memphis, where I grew up. In Nashville, my hubs where I play.
Okay.
Yeah.
So check him out on his website. We'll put it up there.
Oh, and I got picked up on my first tour. This guy Todd Snyder, who's like, he's really funny, and he's a great storyteller. And he has a side band right now with the guys in Widespread Panic, or kind of like a big hippie jam band. They call it the Hardworking Americans. But Todd's going out on a theater tour, and I'm opening.
I like how you just kind of forgot about it. Oh yeah, by the way.
No, it's just there's so much. And I have the worst AD. I'm excited to be doing your show.
Good. I'm glad.
This is
I'm
awesome.
excited to do my show too. Is there room in here for you to play a little something for us?
Sure.
Or not? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
absolutely.
What are you gonna play for us? You know?
I could play something old, new. If you're not really familiar with my catalog that much, I'll just play something.
Play something.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tasha Wilmore, founder of Helpline Zach.
Hi, I'm Richard Wilmore. I'm a freelance social media director and a webmaster.
Help on Deck provides customized administrative support to business owners that will help you get through your day and achieve work-life balance.
And I get the small business owner back to work because time spent maintaining your online presence is time away from work. Welcome to Two Owners Walk Into a Meeting.
We're glad to have you.
Ready? By the way, I want you to know that I'm doing better. It was the way that you left it behind. It took me years to get it together. I believe in harmony. As this world keeps turning, lessons I'm learning, I just let it go and flow like a river. Flow like a river, baby, breathe. I found the key to unlock my emotions stranded. Way too long, I must carry on. And the road that I take is the one less traveled. I throw my seeds and they grow. There's nothing in my way that's too hard to handle. But I believe in harmony. As this world keeps turning, lessons I'm learning, I just let it go and flow like a river. Flow like a river and I breathe. Finally free. Oh, I've been stranded way too long, I must carry on. Breathe. I found the key to unlock my emotions stranded. Way too long, I must carry on. And I flow like a river. Flow like a river, baby. I just flow like a river. Flow like a river, baby. And I breathe.
Welcome to Two Owners Walk Into a Meeting. The purpose of this networking group is to have a safe place for small business owners and entrepreneurs to meet and know they are not alone. We can share ideas, struggles, and collaborate to improve our businesses. Two Owners was created to be an affordable, lively, interactive, and educational environment that is beneficial for both you and your business. For more information, contact Two Owners Walk Into a Meeting at gmail.com. How long have you not lived in Texas?
I have not lived in Texas for almost 2 years. Not quite.
Oh, really? What made
So
you move?
I am a film major, actually. So I went to the University of Texas, got a film degree, and now I am one of those people that moved to LA to try to become a writer. So that's why I'm in LA, and I'm the guy running around with a script going, "Please pay attention to me, for the love of God."
I'm the only one out here doing this. Give it to me.
Well, no, it sucks because, I grew up in Austin, and Austin's a cool artsy place, but it was fun because I was the only one who wanted to be a screenwriter. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and until I got to be in college, it didn't count because I was with other film majors, so everyone was all like, "Film, I want to talk about film. I want to be a filmmaker," but I was like, I'm a writer. And then I moved to LA, and I was like, "Yay, look at me!" And then everyone I meet, I introduce myself. I'm like, "Oh, my name's Eric. I'm a writer." And they're like, "Cool, me too." I'm like, "Stop it!"
Of course you are.
Every little special, little artsy snowflake moved out here to be special, and then we realized that we weren't special.
You need to just come up with a better name than writer, so it sounds different.
Maybe, or I need to do something else. Like literally, I met a guy who was also from Austin, so we were talking, and we were in a group of people, and he said that he worked for Whole Foods, but like the corporate side, and everyone in the room literally was an actor, and everyone turned and was like, "Ooh, you work in an office? What's that like?" This is painful.
They're like, "Oh, my studio apartment is smaller than your office. Tell me all about it."
Right, exactly. So it's interesting.
But you're maybe not doing the screenwriting thing, but you are being an author, so you are writing successfully.
I am. So the books are going more successfully than the scripts, because I have scripts. But the books have been going for a long time and have like their own momentum and everything at this point. So
how did you get into children's book authoring? I know that's a hard genre to get into and be successful at.
The only reason I'm a children's book author was because I started when I was a child.
Oh, okay.
Funnily enough, your cat likes to be a part of this. This is great.
She's a really, really bad co-host.
That's okay. My cats would be even worse. But funnily enough, so I was about 10 years old. I was in the 4th grade. I was given a writing assignment, and it was a creative writing assignment, and essentially it was write whatever you want. And I wrote a short story about Paperman, who is the main character in my book. And I created a superhero. I created the villain because I was obsessed with superheroes at the time because I was 10. And then the next year we were given a similar assignment, and I wrote a second short story because I liked the character so much, and I didn't know what to write, and I didn't think I was very good at writing either, so I just copied stuff I liked. And also because I thought I was bad at writing, I pretty much said, "Oh, I already have that guy over there. I'll just use him again. I don't have to come up with any original content. I just have to come up with like a new villain for him to fight." So I did that, and then I guess I figured out at that point that I liked writing, or it was more that I didn't like writing, because then every year my mom, if my mom's watching this at this point, shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. She would make me journal every single summer in order to stay in the habit of writing. So I would literally have to go up in my room and have to write what I did that day. And I hated it. So I thought I would like pull a fast one on my mom. And I was like, "Hey, Mom, instead of doing a journal, can I write a book? And I'll do a chapter every day." And she was like, "Sure, that sounds great." And in my brain, when I was 12, I was like, "Haha, this will be so much easier than journaling." And then I got like halfway through it, and I was like, I should have stuck with the journal because this is hard. But because I told my mom that, she made me stick to it and finish it. So I wrote the actual first draft of my first book when I was like 12 in the 6th grade. And I didn't get it published, but I got it bound at Kinko's because they used to do bookbinding. Mm-hmm. And my mom helped me get it put in our school library and everything. It has like 0 pictures. It's like, this is it. It's like super generic. Wow. There's literally like nothing in here but like words and words and words. There's not even pictures in there.
What a fun children's book.
Yeah, so it's fun. It was, and then my best friend at the time read it because I submitted it for a school project, and it got in my school library and people read it, and he thought it was super cool, and he was an illustrator at the time. And he said, "Hey, I like your book. It's super cool. Can I draw pictures in my copy?" And I said, "Sure." So he just started drawing pictures, and it was just this weird, fun thing, and I didn't do anything with it. I wrote a second book. I wrote the sequel, and 2 years later, when I was in the 8th grade, and I didn't do anything with that. I just wrote it because it was fun. And it was supposed to be a trilogy originally because in my 12-year-old brain, anything cool was a trilogy. I loved The Lord of the Rings. I loved Star Wars. So Star Wars isn't a trilogy anymore, but at the time, all things cool were in 3s. So, of course, my brain said, I don't even know what this is, but it's got to be a trilogy because it was a fantasy adventure epic. So I went with that and then didn't do anything with it at all. And then when I was like 18, freshman year in college, I said, hey, I would like to revisit this. Maybe I can get it published. And I went back and reworked it, but not a lot because I had already had a following of like little kids that loved it. And I think the reason I loved it was because when I wrote it, I didn't know a thing about marketing or like publishing or like what's your brand or your niche or like who are you? Who can we sell? Demographics. I was just like, this is cool. I'm going to write it.
Yeah.
And so I called my friend up and I said, hey, remember that thing that we did years and years ago? I'm rewriting it. Would you like to do the illustrations for the book? And he said, sure, that sounds awesome. So I went back and tweaked the book, and then I contacted a bunch of publishers, and I found out about self-publishing, and here we are. And then,
Yeah, show them. You have 3 of them, correct?
This is the first book.
Okay.
Right here, the blue one. And this one has, like,
Pictures?
all the pictures, like, very, like, kind of simple but fun. It has basically, like, the mind of a 12-year-old wrote the book, and when I rewrote it, I just tweaked things that literally just made no sense, and I made it cohesive. And so then I was like, this is cool, people like this. And then I backtracked again and was like, I already wrote the second book, and I reread it, and no one had ever read this one before. The thing about the first one, the reason I didn't tweak it was because so many people had already read it up until that point. Second book, I said, no one's read this before. I can change whatever I want as long as it fits with the first book. And my friend went back, did pictures, did even better pictures. It's super cool. So then we have second book. This is The Adventure of Paperman, Journey into Night. It's a little bit darker because like the Two Towers, like, Empire Strikes Back, everything that I loved, it gets a little darker and a little bit more stuff. And then this one, we really bumped up the pictures a lot, and I love to show off the pictures in this one because you get a lot more blacks and you get a lot more like complexity, a lot bigger pictures. And so we went with a lot of that stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And then when it came time to finish it and write the third one to cap off the trilogy, I had nothing because I changed the end of my second book, and I had written maybe 3 chapters of the third book, and what I had written for the end of the second book completely negated everything that I had written. So I was starting from scratch. And so I sat down, I said, okay, this is all brand new stuff. And I started writing, and I finished it. But as you can see, like it gets,
wow.
I call it Harry Pottering. I turned that into a verb. So with each successive book, they essentially double in size. And it's intended for like a year older audience. Like the first book's intended for like a 3rd grade audience. The second one's like 4th, maybe 5th grade. And then the third one's like 5th, 6th grade, like even into like 7th grade. It really bumps it up. And I got a different illustrator. So I have another friend of mine. So he did all the illustration for the third one. Both of them live in Austin. So it's a very different look. Cool. This one, obviously, a lot bigger. And it's just been, I have pretty much sat down each time and said, you know what? I don't care if this sells to a publisher. This is my outlet to write whatever I want to write at any given point or whatever I think is cool. Because whenever I write other stuff, I get bogged down in, will anyone read this? I write Paperman. I say, you know what? People read it. People don't. I had fun writing it. I'll read it. I like reading this.
And they're all available on Amazon.
They are all available on Amazon if you search them. They are available. I've got links posted on my Facebook page, or the Paperman Facebook page, which is The World of Paperman. Links on my Instagram. My personal Instagram is EL Paperman, just my initials, and then Paperman. And there's links there. I post about what I'm writing, what I'm going to write. The Facebook is more prevalent toward just Paperman things. I'll post fan art, which I have a lot of, which is fun.
That is cool. Like, especially since you started at such a young age to even sort of think that that's what it would turn into.
Yeah, no, wasn't even something that crossed my mind, which is why I like it so much, is it's kind of pure in my mind. Like, it doesn't, when people tell me to rewrite the first one, I get like personally offended. I'm like, what? Like, I would never betray my 12-year-old self. How dare you even suggest that?
It's like asking to redo my firstborn.
Right. You just can't. You can't do it, and I love it, and I think as much as the fan art was great, my mom used to be a first grade teacher, and she told me, I think maybe the most humbling thing I've heard as a children's writer. She came home one day and she was like, I was on the playground today, and I heard two kids fighting on the playground, and they were fighting over who got to be Paperman and who got to be Bomb Boy, which are two characters from my book. So I incited a fight between two kids on the playground because they were trying to play Paperman and they were arguing over who got to be who. And I was like, I'm sorry that you had to break up a fight, but that's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
But tell me all about it, because that's awesome. Yeah.
I know. Please tell me, who did they like? Who did they not like? Why was that kid trying to be that character? I want to know all of it.
Have you gone to to schools to kind of, I don't know, introduce yourself and kind of promote it? I bet that's so...
Not in Los Angeles, but in Austin, I did a lot of school visits because I was actually in a job where I would go to schools anyway. I was an after-school program teacher, so I would talk with the teachers and primarily the librarian, and I would go to schools with my friend and we'd visit, and we would talk about primarily just writing because I wrote the book around the time I was the age of the kids I was talking to.
Yeah.
And essentially it was if you write something and you think it's weird, keep it. Who knows what'll happen. Just encouraging imagination. That's why all my books, except for the first one, have a foreword at the beginning where I just talk about my experience, what it was like to write the book. And so that's what I would talk to schools about. I would sell the book. I would give the book to the schools for their libraries. So I'm in a couple schools. In one school in South Austin, actually, they pick an author of the year to have come to their school and visit, and they do a big thing, and they put a big paper, almost like a collage of the first cover on their wall, and they said it'll stay there. So it was for their Dr. Seuss International Read Across America Day. So we came and visited and talked, and they put up this big display, and now we're in their school, and cool. that was a really fun experience, just because we got to go to the school and talk, and it felt more, what's the word? I don't want to say professional, but it kind of did, just because there was so much gravity put on the fact that we were there. Because when I started writing, and because it was when I was a kid, I would be like, oh, this is fun, maybe someone will like it. But to have somebody contact me and say, you're a writer, please come talk to our students, it's the little light switch moment where I was like, oh, you just called me a writer. I don't even call myself that. And then it was maybe I should start calling myself a writer. And so I have been pretty much mostly since a lot of that experience. I was like, oh, people are taking me seriously.
Yeah, it's a real thing now with a little validity, huh?
Right. And now I have, and maybe it's because I started and I've been dwelling in this thing I started when I was 10 years old, but it's done now. That was what the big deal was with the third book, was it officially it's closed. Mm-hmm. This trilogy this story is. I have, of course, ideas for more stories within this world, and I have short stories that once I will hopefully be able to market better and sell, because there are a lot of them. But it officially closed the chapter on this story that I've been telling, and the third book morphed a lot, because the first book is just so pure, unadulterated adventure. Parts of it barely make sense, and only make sense if you just have that, I'm going to go into this, I'm going to have fun reading this. Why are they on a volcano? I don't know. This is fun. Oh, now they're fighting a dragon. Why? I don't know. I wrote it when I was 12. The end of the first book, they fight a dragon, and it was only because I remember in my brain when I wrote it, it's probably because I had read The Hobbit. But in my brain, I said, the book has to end with a dragon fight. And that's all the logic you need to hold that book together is, of course you end the book with a dragon fight. What else would you end the book with? And
every 12-year-old who's reading it thinks the same thing.
Exactly. The one thing I did fix, though, was whenever I wrote the book originally, I was a 12-year-old boy. there are no female characters in the first book. That wasn't something that crossed my mind. Like, oh, well, maybe girls would want to read this. I was like, ew, I don't even want a girl to touch my book. How dare they?
She can be the dragon.
Yeah, there's one girl in the first book. It's the dragon. Not really. I think even the dragon is male. So that was my bad. Because girls started picking it up and they loved it. And luckily, when I wrote the second book, there are female characters, and in the third book there are even more female characters, so it becomes an even divide. And I started realizing that was good because I had moms come up to me and say, well, I really want to buy this book for my daughter because she really likes adventure stories. Are there any female characters in the book? And I'm like, not in the first one, but second one, I promise they're really cool. So I realized, yeah, so, opened my eyes a little bit writing the book. I was like, oh, yeah. Little girls they like adventure stories too, and there's a little something for everyone in there. I like it because the third book caps it off, and it twists away from what the first two were, because the first one is like I said, like that childhood adventure imagination. The second one I wrote in 8th grade. It's a little darker, slightly more angsty, dealing with inner turmoil. So each book kind of reflects where I was at any given point in my life. And I think it's something other people can catch on to. So the third book really latches on to this idea of looking back. Where did we come from? Why did we start this crazy thing? There's a chapter, if anyone watches this, my favorite chapter in the third book is the book's divided into 3 sections, book 1, book 2, and book 3. And book 3, chapter 1 is my favorite. It's probably my favorite thing I've ever written. Not because it's the most beautiful prose ever, but it really, I think, captures what Paperman is to me and why I do Paperman. It's the characters literally sitting and they're having a conversation. And they're talking about, well, do you remember when we started this? Do you remember how we felt? Do you remember where we were? It's almost like a Sam and Frodo ride on Mount Doom as they're doing the final trudge, and Sam gives that amazing talk. And he's just pulling Frodo along. That's kind of what I was going for with that chapter. It's called Walking on the Horizon. And it's about, do you remember then? Do you remember then? If only we had known what we were going to do and what was going to happen to get to this point. And now we're almost to the end, and they don't even know how to feel about it because they've been in this thing for so long.
That's so cool. I think it's awesome though that the books are sort of written at the appropriate ages. I think that's such a cool way to kind of grow the character, and it isn't just you writing it. The character is growing because you're growing. I think that's so cool. And
yeah, I went with that. And the writer, there's actually a writer character that pops in at given times, and the writer's role changes and grows as the book grows and changes. In the first book, one of the characters yells at the writer. And it's just fun because he's mad because he doesn't like, something. He was mad about the way he was acting. And he literally looks up. It's almost like a fist to the heavens. And the other characters lean over and they're like, are you yelling at the writer? You know that he can just kill you off, right? It's I don't care. So it's kind of that. And the writer pops in and out and has little interjections, because whenever I was a kid, my favorite series, sorry to everyone, Harry Potter is not my favorite series as a kid. It was Series of Unfortunate Events. And the writer is a character and pops in and out of the story so frequently. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'd never seen that whenever I was a kid. And I started reading that. So a lot of the writing that happens is very influenced by that and other things I thought was cool. My favorite superhero was Sonic the Hedgehog growing up. And I was writing and I didn't think of anything, and I wrote Paperman, the superhero. He's this off the wall. He doesn't like to sit still. He's quips on quips and just making fun of everything, but he gets it done. And I was talking with my friend who was illustrating, and I think it was around the time the second book had just come out. So this was years after I'd created this character. Second book just released, and we're having a conversation. He's like, I think it's so cool that you were able to base Paperman off of Sonic the Hedgehog because you love him so much. And I looked at him and I was just like, what are you talking about? I didn't base him off Sonic the Hedgehog. And he was like, you did though. Like, he does this and he talks like this and he like wears red boots, like his red shoes. And I was like, you know, now that you mention it, yeah, he is based
You're so right.
You're so right. That's like, was apparently in my subconscious.
Weird.
So that's why I like Paperman. It was literally just like my brain went straight into the paper. Like there's literally no hiding who I am. When I've had friends read it now, they read it and they walked up to me and said, yeah, I can tell you wrote that book. That's totally you. I'm like, cool. It's like my unfiltered brain.
That's so cool. What are you doing? What are you doing this year in 2018? What's the plan?
2018, I'm waiting to hear back from Screencraft actually about a feature script that I wrote. So that's something that is actively or passively for me going on, and I'm actually also working on a pilot for a television show that I would like to get produced should I find the right people to work with.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm in LA. I should write scripts, so I'm writing scripts. And I have an idea for Paperman 4 bopping around in the back of my brain that may or may not come out. But I know exactly what the story should be, but I could tell millions of stories because Paperworld, it's been around in my brain since I was 11 because Paperworld didn't exist in the first short story. It existed in the second one. It's been in my brain so long, someone could just sit down and say, tell me about something, like talk about Paperworld. And I would go, cool, let me give you the Silmarillion and Book of Unfinished Tales of Paperworld. Let's have multiple copies and just let me talk for hours.
Well, the next time you're in Austin, stop by.
All right.
Stop by or up. I don't even know directions. But Adventure of Paperman, buy it on Amazon.
Yes.
Please.
Please.
We'll put up the links to all of your stuff so people can follow you and find you and buy your stuff.
Cool.
Thank you very much, sir.
This has been fun. Thank you for interviewing me.
Anytime.
Cool.
Anytime. All right.
Bye.
Bye.